early Heisman favorite that we got, but not named Arch Manning. Who is on your short list?
Um, my short list, Ahmad Hardy, big fan of his, just a really, really great running back. I think he had a lot of momentum last year, and I think going into this year, he probably is officially on a preseason Heisman ballot, and so it's kind of his storyline throughout the year. Like if he has really good, week 3, week 4, by the time it's week 4, and he's Daniel Jones got like, 800, 900 yards rushing, I think he's going to be right in that conversation. Malachi Tony deserves to be in that conversation preseason. He probably has the most momentum going off of last year and then playing really well in the national championship game against a really good defense. He deserves it. Jeremiah Smith, who I still think is the best overall player in the country. He's got the most accurate quarterback in the country on his team throwing the ball still. Still going to have elite wide receivers next to him. So he's not going to get the one-on-one coverage 24/7 he's going to have. Now, Carnell Tate's going to the draft, so he's going to see a lot more high safety over the top for sure. And then if this guy gets his eligibility granted, then I think Trinidad Chambliss should be up there for the Heisman. Going back to Ole Miss, I think he's going to be the good guy in a lot of people's eyes, not following LSU. He can carry that momentum last year. I think a lot of people wanted to see him win that game in the semifinals last year just because of the story and, Lane Kiffin leaving and this team's depleted and what coaches are leaving. Is he going to leave? Is he even going to get a chance to play next year? So if he does get granted that eligibility, I think that he should be on that list too. But those are my four guys on that list. It was hard for me to come up with the fifth. If I had to come up with the fifth right now, not name Arch Manning, I would probably say Gunnar Stockton or
Hmm.
oof, Gunnar Stockton, or we could throw Dante Moore on there because there's a chance that he has a really, really good year.
Okay, I'm not opposed to that. There are a lot of guys, I think. So to me, Dante Moore is an obvious one. Just him returning the production. I think that we're going to expect a lot from him. I think we're going to get a lot from him. I think your guy, Byron Brown, he's going to be up there. He has a chance. Auburn plays so many football games where they could be a team like LSU and Jaden Daniels won, where the offense is good, but they lose games where he could be the Heisman winning quarterback, but not on the best team. I think he's got a real chance, especially like so there's something about a quarterback that can throw the ball really well, but runs that bitch well too. Like
Yeah.
there's something about a dual threat guy that can just give you 100 yards on the ground that we just like watching. And so to me, he has the chance, like he'll have the most prime time opportunities to be like, is might be the best quarterback in the country. I think Marcel Reed, if he can mature, I think he's got a real chance at it. He lost his OC, Kellen Klein.
Mhm.
He's going back to Kansas State. And so we'll see what that looks like, but they're retooling. He's going
I'm
to be
I'm a
bigger.
big
Go ahead.
fan of Marcel Reed, and I usually don't say this about a lot of quarterbacks, but he's got to put on some weight.
No, for sure.
Too small. He's too small. He takes hits. He's very fragile. He just needs a stronger arm in general. But that would be my biggest thing for him. I really like his game. I really think that he could be an NFL quarterback, but he's got to put on some size.
No, I completely agree with you, and I think he will. I think that's
Yeah.
what it's for. And then I've got Trinidad Chambliss falling out. It's weird because I want to see Trinidad do really well. I also think Pete Golding is not going to do very well at Ole Miss, and so one of those two has to be incorrect.
I think he's
Um,
in over his head a little bit. Pete Golding. That's another conversation.
I
But
think Ole Miss went with like the like kind of the FU. We're not going to do the whole big name guy. We're going to go with the homegrown guy, and like that's just it. We
give it a
saw that with
year. Give it a
Ryan
year.
Day is the only guy it's worked with. Sharon Moore couldn't handle it. We'll
Right.
see what Pete Golding can do. And then I've got Hoover, the kid who will be at Indiana, who's from TCU. Or I think he's got a chance. I think Indiana is going to be a team where we start looking at it as like, this team has rock stars on it, and they're going to get the respect that they're due. And I think Cignetti's going to want to beat the piss out of teams again because that's just who he is.
I
And so
think
I think
there's a
he's going to have some big
chance.
numbers.
I think there's a chance that Signetti kind of goes into this season almost kind of disrespected a little bit with the chip
Yep.
on his shoulder. Like, hey, they think I lost my best player. I don't have
Mhm.
any much else. This is just kind of like lightning in a bottle. So I think he's coaching with something to prove too. So that could be a really good thing.
1000%. And that goes right into the next question of does the Big Ten run through Indiana or Ohio State?
Ohio State. And I think that even though last year Indiana wins and Signetti is the best coach in the conference, Indiana is by far the best team in the conference in the country. But Ohio State is Ohio State. And I think they return right back to where we're used to seeing them, which really last year, up until the Indiana game, everybody kind of thought like this is the best team in the country by far. And so with Julian Sain coming back, obviously Jeremiah Smith, you have Bo Jackson, the running back. You are losing Arvo Reese and Caleb Downs on defense. But Ohio State's showing that they can replace those guys. And I think Ohio State, just with, the pedigree that they bring, I think you have to put them as the number one team, maybe not even in the Big Ten, but in the country overall too. So I think the Big Ten still runs through Ohio State. I still think it's the marquee game that every other team in the Big Ten, not named Indiana, is looking to beat because Indiana has kind of slayed the dragon a little bit. But I think Oregon, Penn State, USC, um, all the other Big Ten schools are really still gunning for that Ohio State win, and that means more. And so I'm gonna say Ohio State. That could change by week 4. We could be, this could be Indiana's conference, but right now I'm going Ohio State.
I don't mind that at all. I think that if you go with just tradition and you keep the brand power, I think that Ohio State's probably the right answer. I think it's Indiana. I think that we're gonna go through the team that has not lost a game since like 2024. And so or 2025, I guess would have been in the playoffs. But either way, I think I'm gonna go with Indiana. I think that they have the best coach in the conference and in the country. I think that they have the best talent evaluators. And I think they have the chance to like reinvigorate what it means to be a small time football team or program to becoming a huge brand. I think they are the inspiration for what I think people at Oklahoma State think could happen, what people I
Mhm.
think at Virginia Tech could happen. And so to me, I just feel like that it goes through them. To me, Ohio State has to prove that they like can beat good football teams. It's kind of been a minute since we saw them like win a game convincingly that we were like, yeah, that looks like Ohio State. And so I don't know if it's a Ryan Day thing where he is kind of playing the whole like we're going to save our best for the playoffs. I think Cignetti does the opposite. He's like, we're going to beat the brakes off of you and expose you, but we're going to do the same things we do against UCLA as we're going to do against Miami, and it's all going to work out. And so I wonder if we see a revamp as Ryan Day, kind of as the coach that he is. And I would give Ryan Day this credit because there are not very many human beings that can do this, that can look in the mirror and say, I have not been good enough. I am going to come back better and I'm going to improve my football team and the way my philosophy is around the game. From 2 years ago, he revamps it after the Michigan loss and they win a national championship. And then they kind of ride that high a little bit. They get a little fat, dumb, and happy. They lose some games they shouldn't have lost. And now we're back sitting here like, well, fuck, if Ryan Day loses 2 more games, like, I don't know, should he be the coach here? So I think that he's going to come back around, but I think that Cignetti's on top. There's not a better coach in the country than him. I think the Big Ten goes through Ohio State and our Indiana. And our last question of the session here that we got from the mailbag is
Mhm.
a writer said, "Am I crazy for thinking Virginia Tech could win the ACC? What do you think?"
I think, I think it's a
On
far
a
shot.
scale of 1 to 10, like 10 being
I
the
think
absolute
10
crazy.
being absolutely crazy. I think you're sitting right around a 7.
Okay.
I like James Franklin a lot. I think, he's out to prove something. Any coach that's out to prove something, I think is coaching with a chip on their shoulder. They're not going to let up. And, you know, improvement is the only thing they're going to see. Improvement from Virginia Tech and an improvement from the last thing that we saw at Penn State, which I think is not going to be very hard for him to duplicate. But you have an entirely changed over roster. You have a bunch of guys who were committed to Penn State and now are going to Virginia Tech. You have some Virginia Tech guys that are staying. But I'd imagine he probably gutted out the bottom half of that entire roster. And who he replaced them with, I don't know. But is it fair to think that Virginia Tech can win the ACC? No, I don't think it's fair, but I think there is a realistic shot that the ACC continues to fall flat, especially at the top, to where somebody could sneak in there. Because I don't think Clemson is going to be that great this year. The question is around their quarterback and the rest of their talent, and Clemson's one bad season away from the rest of the talent leaving that entire program. And then you have teams like Miami where we don't really know where they're going to fall, and if Virginia Tech, a well-coached team can beat a Miami. SMU, Cal, all these teams are in the middle of the road that we don't really know about. The Virginias who just got Bo Peep, like they're probably not taking a step forward versus Chandler Morris, but like Virginia Tech, who's wins 22-20 versus Washington State, and then is almost in the playoff. Like you know, I want to say Virginia Tech is not going to win the ACC, but I'm not going to 100% rule them out because of a good coach and because this talent might really transfer over, and we see just how well the transfer portal really actually works.
So I agree with that a bit. I think I'm gonna bring your prediction or your number down from a 7 to a 5. I think that there is a realistic pathway. And I just want to say this because I think it's really important to understand how close some of these things are. Duke won the ACC with 5 losses.
Yeah.
Okay. The very bottom of the league was Syracuse with 9 losses. So there's a 5 game swing there. Okay. Now that sounds like a lot, but if I go to the Big 12 as an example, Let me go here first. If I go to the Big 12, the losingest team was 1-11. The winningest team was 12-2. So that's a humongous gap. If we go to the Big Ten, very similar. The losingest team was 2-10. The winningest team was 16-0. We go to the SEC. Let me go ahead and scroll there. Same thing. The winner was 12-2. The loser was 2-10. And so I think the ACC is compressed when it comes to maybe it could be talent, it could be coaching, it could be whatever. Where I think that there are a lot of like random bounces that happen that could really yo-yo a team to being in a position that they don't deserve to be in, like Duke playing Virginia in the ACC championship, which was cold and rainy. It should be in a freaking dome somewhere. But it's like, how does that happen? It's like, man, maybe Virginia Tech could. Maybe a good disciplined team who loses 4 games could be in the championship game.
Yeah.
And we're talking about them in the playoff. And I would love to see James Franklin get in first year. So I'm going to put that out of 5. I don't think it's going to happen. But if it was starting to form that way, I wouldn't be shocked. James Franklin's a great coach. And the ACC is also really weird. And so all of that together spells out to me, yeah, he has a chance.